Do you know that today Claude Cowork is possibly the most powerful way of literally creating one-on-one personalized outreach campaigns? Hi, this is Ishan Manchanda. I'm the founder of GrowthSpree. And let me talk about how the evolution of personalization in email and LinkedIn drip campaigns has been. I mean, almost 2 years back, I think in 23, 24, we personally were doing personalization with Lemlist. We used to try image personalization. It didn't work. We used to do things manually. We would look at each of the prospects, go to their LinkedIn profile, look at their about section, their the post that they've done, and whatever is available, and try to build some icebreakers, which would be like a few lines of personalization in a templatized email that would go out. Moving forward, what we started doing is we started using Phantom Buster, right? So Phantom Buster would scrape these posts and comments, and then you would try to again still do it manually. And then a few months later, we saw LLM models coming in. People started talking about NA10s and the make.coms. And we evolved. We created NA10. We had Phantom Buster fetching posts, fetching the comments, Claude on an OpenAI, basically reading those comments and building some icebreakers, personalized kind of campaigns. Coming to 2026, Claude with Claude Cowork is exceptionally good in doing everything. Now, the difference is while you are doing the NA10 workflow where Phantom Buster would fetch the uh, posts and the comments, and then OpenAI or a Claude would, and read those comments, there was still a lot of context which would be missing in that scraping process because it's scraping, right? So you only have that particular piece of content which comes, and that is what OpenAI or any LLM model would read on. With Cowork, things have changed, and that is what I'm going to show you today. With Cowork, the power is immense. It literally visits each of the LinkedIn profiles, just like we used to do 2, 3 years back manually. Would look at everything, build a lot of context, look at which companies the prospect is working in, research about the company, do some web research, find out news, find out articles, find out a personality or a characteristic mapping based on comments and the posts that the prospect has done, and the kind of quality of output is exceptional. So what I've you know what I was so what I've been trying is trying to create one-on-one personalized drips for 100 prospects first, and then can I create it over Dripify, like a separate campaign for each of the prospect, and see how the outcome is. So for this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I use Claude Cowork to do research and build very high quality one-on-one personalized LinkedIn outreach strips. Let's get into it. So this is how I started, and it's a long chat, by the way, but I'm going to skim it through. I'm going to talk about the important aspects. So I gave it one profile to start with. Here, obviously, I already have a list of these 100 folks, right? I said I want to start a podcast series. So the objective is like I want to reach out to people for podcasts, and I still want it like a very personalized kind of trips, which is more conversational driven, where the topics for the podcast also, come into that messaging angle itself, so that whenever someone replies, he has context of what kind of conversation I want to have with him, and making it personalized also builds a lot of credibility that I've put in a lot of effort. So I want to start a podcast series. This is more context for you guys. Just visit the link, this particular link, create a personalized drip, check their profile, what they post, do not really see the repost, any comments, search any web if they've done any interviews, any podcasts. Look at any information which is available, and it should not be more than 6 months old. This is a strict instruction, which is something that I mentioned. Since you'll be using some information to personalize, important that it shouldn't be 6 months, more than 6 months old. Then I gave it a little bit of context around the podcast that I'm trying to do. Top marketers and leaders, what they're thinking, how they're using AI, what are their mindset change, what is the expectation, how the channel's changing, how's operations changing, etc., etc. These are the kind of topics I want to talk to, and whatever fits into whatever person, that is how the messaging should be, instead of just like, I'm doing a podcast, would you like to be a guest? Like, I think that's boring, and even though podcasts are like low resistance and boosts the egos of the people that you're reaching out to, it can't be that simple, especially if you're reaching out to good folks, right? So it starts with that, and let me show you the first output that it gives me. This is the output, right? So it's given me the entire research that it's done. Like, look at the research, right? It's a new role for him. That's what it's identified. It's in January 2026 only. This guy has joined this particular company. There's been a major launch, this is like company related information which is going to happen, which is great. Right? There's a career arc for this particular prospect. Um, so the entire career trajectory is at this intersection of AI and B2B marketing, which is great again to know about a person that you're reaching out to. He values mentorship, podcast affinity is there, because I think Claude saw somewhere, Cowork saw that the Generation AI podcast at Live Person is something that he's promoted. So again, more like a personality or a characteristics and interest, engages with content on email, marketing, AI orchestration, CX transformation, and GDM strategy, right? And then it writes a drip, right? Saw a post about voice close this, exciting times, and I love to connect and exchange notes. Thanks for the connecting. I'm starting a podcast series, so and so. This is good. Would you be open to a 30-40 minute conversation? There's a CTA. So it's really nicely written. There's a third message and a fourth follow-up as well. Um, so then I moved on. So this is great, right? So I gave it on the link of the spreadsheet, which has more 75 people more in it, right? And I'm asked it to like build this kind of an outreach, do the research, and build this one-on-one outreach for each of them, right? And it starts doing that, and then I see um, obviously you see a try again, you'll see that a couple of times Claude does, especially Cowork. There is a chance that it stops operating, it loses the connection with the browser. So you need to keep monitoring it. It's better to have a separate system for Claude Cowork so that you can just keep monitoring it. And on the other side, on the other system, you can continue with your more, the other work that you might have. And then let me just scroll down, and so I mentioned this is a long chat. It gives me one kind of an output. I don't like it. Uh, I give it the drip, because what happened is, in this case, there was some bug. It lost context of what it had given me earlier. The first drip that I had shared, shown you just right now. So I just give it back. I just tell it, why this is the first drip. Check the current one. It's pathetic. Take your time. Write something sensible. You've written as a third person in certain drips. So again, whatever it's written here, I validated it properly. You can't trust blindly. That's AI 101, right? It acknowledges, it starts making those changes. Then again, I have some, issue. I gave it a feedback. Most of the trips you have talked about, how messaging with some, you mentioned CX training or revenue. Again, some irrelevant things that I started mentioning. So this is where the point I realized I should ask it to give five at a time rather than complete drip. And I can approve all of those five, which was really good. Be- So after a point, I realized I should keep asking for five in a batch rather than asking it to do completely. This was one of the learning, and it worked out well. Now I could look at five, give it a feedback, um, look at again, five more that it changes based on my feedback. I gave more feedback, right? So this kept happening. The reason is I didn't give enough context. So when you guys do it, I want to, want you to ensure that in the first prompt itself, you give it as much context about what kind of drips you want, what tone, more information about what you do, what your company does, who your ICP is, all of that. Like that is better. I was experimenting, so I didn't do that well. That is another learning that I grasped from this particular, experiment with Claude Cowork. I kept doing it effectively. After 4 or 5 iterations, it finally gave me what I wanted. As I mentioned, long chat, and finally, it gave me the entire drip written for all of those people. Very well written. highly personalized, and something I can assure you that humanly is would have been very, very, very tough, if not impossible, right? And it's written well. If you don't like it, give it references, write one drip based on the research that it does for you. Even the research validated for a few prospects. I did that. 99.99% accuracy in the research. In writing the drips, when I was asking it to write, 70, 75 drips in a go, it started hallucinating in between. And, after 30 odd drips, it would start writing um, in a very, not so relevant fashion, third person voice. So that's where the 5 per batch or 10 per batch comes in very handy. So you can keep giving, feedbacks continuously, and it won't take you 3 to 5 iterations max, like not more than that. And when you have the output, this looks very good. And the whole advantage is, in a single day, you can do this for 100 people. So you might feel 100, it's not a large scale, but you can do all of this for 100 people literally in a single day, right? Even when you're doing it once. And then what you do is you create a skill right here of the process that you followed, all the feedbacks it's given. So it you can create a skill. Once you create a skill, it becomes easier. The context that it was losing in between, that won't happen often because I had not created a skill. But there's another learning that I had is basically, once you do something and you want a recurring task, it's better to create a skill so that it does not hallucinate. So it has clear instructions all the time as to how to approach a certain problem, because AI, its inherent nature is you can ask it to do the same thing, it will do it in 100 different ways. That's where skills comes into play, and that's the advantage. And finally, yeah, just have a look at the kind of drips that it's written. Highly personalized, really well written. In certain cases, I felt it could have improved, which, you know, before I will start with the campaigns, I will make certain more changes. I'll probably give like a reference. I think that's the best way to move forward. But overall, the personalization angle, how it's able to map the research that it's done with the problem statement that I am proposing, or the offer that I'm going with, is just extraordinary. And to do it at this scale in such quick time, it's just magnificent. I'm going to next try um, using Cowork to set up these one-on-one campaigns, basically 70 odd, 100 odd campaigns on Dripify, and run them and monitor them. And let's see how the results go. Thank you.